How's it going, YouTube? Hopefully y'all are having a fantastic day so far. I just went live, so I've been talking for like 15 minutes to Instagram and realized never hit the live button on YouTube. So let me just show you guys super quick. We have a bunch of fun releases coming this week. I'm not going to bore Instagram by talking about it all again, but I will show you the really cool one. So first off, if you are not a part of our text deal, you're going to want to check that out for the return of the Trevor Staub Shark. That's coming on Wednesday. Head over to Foundation Disc Golf on Instagram, DM us the word deals. And then I'm going to show you, this is dropping, I believe, Friday. So it's a Foundation stamped buzzsaw. So super excited about that. I can't believe I just went live for legitimately like 10 minutes and forgot to hit go live. So that was funny. What was funny, I was telling Instagram that only YouTube was going to see things, and then YouTube wasn't even live yet. Anyways, I should have realized that it doesn't matter. So what we got is a few topics from Instagram, and then we'll take the live questions from the YouTube chat and from the Instagram chat. Wow, what a rough start. So this came from Austin Corley. He actually submitted two topics that I think we can tackle both of these a little bit more in depth, and then we'll get into a few more questions. So first, he said, do you ever worry about being in too much of a bubble in business and in personal life? So this is actually a great one because it's something that growing up I never really thought of. It wasn't until much more recently, I don't even know when, it kind of is something as you grow and mature, I realized the importance of getting outside of a bubble. I grew up in a little bit of a bubble, for sure. And I think that there's some benefits to that, to a certain extent, that, and a lot of times when you're in a bubble, especially if it's like your parents put you in a bubble or something like that, it comes from a really good place, because people are trying to protect you from something, right? But the danger of being in a bubble is a lot of times when it comes to your core beliefs, your core values, and even your growth potential, if you don't have that exterior challenging, then you can't dig in and learn for yourself. So it's really in regards to faith, I think that it's important where, it's almost a good thing to be in a bubble when you're first learning, because then you can really dig in and dig deep. But then as you grow and mature, I think it's important to be able to defend whatever your faith is. For me as a Christian, I think it's really important for me to be able to defend my Christian faith. And so when you're outside your bubble, that's when you have the opportunity to do so a lot more. And you get all these challenges of things where I never thought about that. Let me dig into the Bible and see what the Bible says. And what I have found is that it actually deepens my faith, because when someone presents me with something, so far, I've never been able to go to the Bible and not learn more about why I believe what I believe and what the Bible says. And a lot of times it's a misunderstanding from someone about what the Bible teaches and so on and so forth. But even in personal growth and in business, if you're too much in a bubble, then you'll basically stunt your growth, because a lot of growth happens outside of your comfort zone, which I think a bubble can also be described as a comfort zone. And growth happens when you push yourself beyond that, right? Because if you only ever, the easiest example is fitness, right? If you're going to the gym and lifting weights and you go in the first time, and when you're doing bicep curls or a bench press, let's just stick with bicep curls. If the first time you go into the gym, a bicep curl is really comfortable for you at 10 pounds, and you go until, you're doing the bicep curl at 10 pounds, and you go until you feel a little fatigued, and then you stop. Well, you're not going to grow nearly the same as someone who goes in and is constantly pushing themselves, where 10 feels comfortable, 15 pounds feels a little uncomfortable that first time in. So they rep out 15 pounds until it starts to feel comfortable. Then 20 pounds feels uncomfortable. So they start repping that. They're going to progress and get much stronger, because your body needs that type of stress to grow. Same thing with running. I know I can speak a lot for running. If I just went out, and it's really important to have easy runs, but you need to mix in the speed work and pushing yourself. And if you only ever just do what's comfortable distance-wise and pacing-wise, then you'll never know what you're truly capable of. And so I think that pushing yourself outside your bubble, outside your comfort zone in both business, personal life, everything is crucial. You have to have a good balance of them both. You don't want to just constantly live outside of it. But I think it is important to push yourself beyond there, because that's where growth happens. And in business, it's the same thing, where a lot of times if we stay where we're comfortable, we stay with what we know, then we'll never develop new revenue streams. We'll never push the boundaries on what's possible. We'll only, if you stay in an echo chamber, then everyone's telling you the way you're doing it's right, the way you're doing it's right, and no one's questioning any of your systems and processes. The world will move on without you. And so then you'll never develop. And next thing you know, it's similar. We can look at this has happened with many businesses. I believe it was either BlackBerry or Motorola. I believe it was BlackBerry that was kind of dominating what should have been the smartphone market. And they basically saw the coming of the iPhone and that type of like touchscreen smartphone. And basically their thought process was like, well, this is working for us. We're not going to change. Who would even want that? And next thing you know, the market passed them on. And by the time they tried to develop, they were playing catch up instead of they were the forefront. And that's what happens when you stay in your bubble and you stay in your comfort zone. Then, it passes you, life passes you on, opportunities pass you on, and so on and so forth. So life's a lot easier staying in your bubble, but at what cost? So hopefully that makes sense. And then he also asked, Austin said, will Foundation ever outgrow disc golf? I thought this was an interesting question because outgrow is not the word I would ever use. No to that question. But will Foundation ever expand? I think yes. Foundation Golf is obviously one thing that we've done where it's kind of like a side thing. And I have essentially what I'm really proud of Foundation for and what it's turned into a lot is it's an escape for a lot of people where when things, and we hear this all the time, I never even thought of Foundation this way until I started to hear it, and then it kind of motivates us to do what we do, and it made me question, like, well, are we limiting the good we could be doing? So people will turn to Foundation as their sense of community, as their outlet, as when they're having a bad day, something to cheer them up. And how I look at it is like people are turning to something, right? And so why, like with Foundation, at least you can turn it on with your family in the room, and we're not going to curse. We're not going to be doing anything that you wouldn't want your family, your kids or something to see, right? Like you don't have to worry about what you're exposing them to, like you might with some other pieces of content. For instance, I having my son watched a lot of Barstool Sports content, and they're very crude, right? And it's something where, like, as soon as I had my son, I couldn't just have that on the TV anymore because you didn't know, if 80% of the content was fine, but 20% they might throw in a curse word or a crude joke or something like that, where, like, me as a 28-year-old, I can watch that and be fine, but my 2-year-old should not be exposed to that at all, right? Well, that is something where, like, I want that outlet of being able to watch entertaining sports content, watch people talk about sports that I enjoy and that I love. But I want to be able to do it without sacrificing family time to do so, if that makes sense. And what I discovered was like, that's what we provide for people within disc golf. I never really looked at it that way. We were just talking about a sport we loved. We were just playing a sport we loved. And what I realized was like, we brought in people and like, we now have this community within disc golf where people are making friends from our comment section, from our Discord, from our Patreon, whatever. And it's an awesome thing. And so I have like kind of a longer term vision of disc golf's an arm, Foundation Golf's an arm, Foundation Pickleball, Foundation, whatever. And we won't be the core personalities in all of them. Obviously, we're the disc golfers. I think, as you can tell in Foundation Golf, it might take our personalities to kind of get it up and rolling, but the goal is to bring people in so that we can continue to do what we love with disc golf and bring people in where they can keep Foundation Golf going, and maybe we pop in for a video here and there, vice versa, and build out the Foundation personalities. And then hopefully eventually Foundation Nation, the central one, can make a return and it not just be us doing just side content, but instead it's where you see the merging of all the Foundation sports personalities and everything come together, right? So you have like Foundation Fitness, Foundation Running, Foundation Golf, Foundation Outdoors, whatever it might be, right? And then Foundation Disc Golf, our core, our pillar. And then you have Foundation Nations where like all of these personalities can come together and do a ping pong tournament or can do like all this fun stuff that we've done before, and y'all really love it when we do that stuff. But it's hard to do when there's just 4 of us or 5 of us or 6 of us, right? It's way easier if there was 15 of us. Okay, we need 7 of us to be available to do this, because then we can do it more often because it's not demanding all of us all the time. So will Foundation ever outgrow disc golf? No, because I think outgrow disc golf insinuates leaving it behind, as far as like, if the Golf Channel blew up to where the Golf Channel was, getting hundreds of thousands of views, we're not all of a sudden going to stop making disc golf content. I think that's what outgrow insinuates. So no, in that sense. But will we ever expand where, we might be more known for our golf content than disc golf content? That might happen. Obviously, that would take, it's just because markets are bigger. But what I think would be really good about that and really good for disc golf is if that did happen, our brand's always going to be the same. So I think there's a lot of growth for the sport of disc golf opportunities in that as well, where we can now fill up this bucket and introduce and cross-promote and, pour over into this bucket. Because right now, essentially, our Foundation Golf Channel is just, if you like disc golf and you like golf, this is a place where you can watch people who you enjoy watching play disc golf, play golf, and it's a lot of fun. And so I think as it grows, that can be something where it can almost go vice versa of like, if you like watching these people play golf, then you can have the same vibe with disc golf and watch that as well. And that could be a good avenue to grow the sport too. So will we ever outgrow disc golf? No, because I think outgrow, that word just kind of insinuates something that'll never happen, which is leaving disc golf behind in pursuit of something else, which that will never happen. But will Foundation expand beyond disc golf? We're never going to expand beyond disc golf at the cost of what we currently do, because we all love what we get to do for a living, and we're never going to risk that chasing one of these side channels. It's similar to you've watched us try the banter and eventually kill the banter. You watched us try Foundation Nation and eventually kill Foundation Nation. It's because our main thing's our main thing. That's Foundation Disc Golf. That's what we love. That's what our community loves. That's what keeps the lights on. That's where we've built our community, and we do not want to ever sacrifice what we provide for our community in pursuit of something else. But I think the way we're doing it right now with Foundation Golf allows us to provide exactly what we've always provided, and then throw in a little side thing. And if that continues to grow and get momentum, then I think that we can, let's try to bring in some more personalities from outside into this Foundation Golf sphere, so that now we can get more content rolling there, yada, yada, yada. So hopefully that makes sense. I've never really talked about it in depth like that before. But yeah, I think the impact potential for what Foundation can do is too large to ignore. And so, yeah, I think it's awesome. Some of the stories we've gotten just from our disc golf content, just to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain. The main one that hits home, that I always bring up to our team when we're getting motivated to like keep doing what we're doing and it's paying off. This probably happened like 2 years ago. Is we got a wooden mini in the mail with a letter, and the letter, I won't say the guy's name, but the letter basically said that this person was struggling. He was mentally struggling, and he was thinking about ending it. And for whatever reason, he logged onto YouTube, and YouTube recommended a Foundation video. And he started watching our content for a little bit, and he used to play disc golf a while ago. He wasn't playing anymore, and watching our content, he decided, you know what, I'm gonna go out and just play disc golf again. That looks like a lot of fun. So he watched a few of our videos, he picked up his bag, he went out and played disc golf, and when he went out and played disc golf, he found the disc golf community in his area, and then he contributes the finding of his disc golf community and getting plugged into the community with saving his life, because it got him outside, it helped break the mental health he was struggling with. And so he made us these wooden minis and mailed them to us as a thank you, because we obviously, all we did was we made silly videos, but it got him to pick up his bag and get outside, and then his local community is what saved his life, but he contributed a lot of that to us. And that was kind of one of the moments that I was like, man, we're not just making fun, goofy videos just for nothing. Like these videos, as silly as they might feel and as trivial as they can feel, and whatever it might be, can really make an impact and can really brighten people's day and can really We've had several stories of people who are in the hospital, and watching foundation content is what like helps get them through. And like that's just something that when you start making fun YouTube videos is never on your radar. And then all of a sudden that's the type of impact that this type of stuff is having. And to be able to see the fruits of that and see the positive impact that we're able to have is what lights me up. It's what lights our team up, to where that's what I'm saying. Like, what we're doing here will not stop, because we're so driven to make sure. Because like if we were to randomly stop for whatever reason, if we got burnt out, well, what if that next video was the one that had that impact, right? What if we didn't try as hard on this video and it didn't get the reach, and that reach it could have gotten was the impact that could have been made, that could have led to someone getting plugged into their disc golf community, that could have eventually saved them. So like that sounds kind of trivial or whatever. I don't know, because we're just talking about throwing frisbees in a park. But once I saw that impact that, being that positive light can have within disc golf, that's when I was like, we've got to use our talents and abilities the Lord's blessed us with to look beyond just what we're doing here, because there's other people out there that are, aren't into disc golf right now, that maybe can get into disc golf later, that we can still impact. So yeah. Then Jaden Trikel, last topic before we get into questions, because I got some questions pulled up from Instagram and from YouTube. And so we'll get into those to finish the show out in a little bit. Jaden Trikel said, how long did it take you to become fluent in understanding finances? I'm 25 and confused. So I wanted to pull this up because I think it was a really good question. I would not consider myself fluent in finances by any means. There's a lot I do not understand. I think I have a good understanding of basic personal finance. And so I think that has helped me tremendously. I was fortunate enough to be raised with, my dad was very kind of like open financially, when it comes to like making sure I understood why it was important to save. He's been there. He's like someone I talk to all the time whenever I have financial questions. So that's where it's been very crucial for me, so that early on, especially as a business owner, my dad was a business owner, so understanding, having to set money aside for taxes, because I, as a self-employed person, I do have a W-2, but I also have business income that rolls onto my tax return, right, via K1. So understanding that type stuff was very important to have my dad in my life. But at the age of like maybe 20, another thing that was very important for me was I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart. So as soon as I got to college, I knew I'm getting married very soon. And so that, I think, changed my perspective on finances a lot, to where personal finance just kind of became a hobby for me, because I was trying to make sure I'm setting myself and my wife up for future success. So that helped me a lot, and kind of drove me to study personal finance, because I do think it's a criminal that you can graduate high school and never be taught anything about personal finance, about balancing a checkbook, which obviously modern day you don't have to balance a checkbook nearly the same way, but still, about taxes, about investing, about credit card and debt, any of that. I mean, because I just saw a TikTok that this is crazy, but this girl was freaking out because she was looking at her student loan balance, because she had made a lump sum payment, and she'd been paying her student loans down for 10 years. And I believe she said she owed 70 grand or something like that on her student loan. She'd been paying it for 10 years, and her remaining balance was like 65 grand. And she was freaking out because it didn't make sense. And it's criminal. It shouldn't be that way. But it's because a lot of loans are structured where up front you pay the bank back first. So essentially the majority of your payment is going towards paying off the interest, and such a little bit is going towards the principal, or the lump sum. So then the second half of your loan repayment term really attacks the principal, and that comes down because the bank's already got their money. The bank wants to get their money first, and then you can pay back. But stuff like that, just you don't think about it, right? Because it's oh, I borrowed X amount, I'm gonna pay back X amount, but then the whole interest thing. So, anyways, how I became fluent, if you want to call it that, I would not. I think I still have so much to learn in regards to personal finance and finance in general. But reading was the big one for me. Let me actually see if I can. I was looking for my phone. There was one book in particular that was super helpful for me. Let me see. I'll recognize it if I. Okay, Get a Financial Life: Personal Finance in Your 20s and 30s by Beth Kobliner, it looks like. I believe this is a book. Yeah, it's a $10 book. It looks like on Amazon. This book was one that I remember being like explaining a lot of stuff. It just kind of broke down general personal finance, just general stuff of like, hey, just kind of gave you a general understanding. So that was a good start. And then love him or hate him, the Dave Ramsey has been huge in just helping me understand, because a lot of people come after Dave Ramsey because he is like no debt, period. But I think it's an important thing to understand, because like debt can be very dangerous in the sense of like, if you don't manage it right and you let it manage you, or you let debt get out of control, then basically your income, your paycheck can come in and all be sucked dry by minimum payments. And like we just talked about, those minimum payments are basically all going towards interest. None of it's going towards the principal. So your overall debt isn't even really coming down. So it's just a never-ending cycle. And then if you have to go live above your means a little bit, because your means are being shrunk by all your debt repayments, then you're going to have to put more stuff on credit cards, and then debt grows, yada, yada, yada. So I think that Dave Ramsey's very strict on debt because he has to be, because like a lot of times with people who are calling in are people who can't control, like they can't just have a credit card and pay it off every month, right? Like that just isn't going to happen. And so I think that is where some people get confused. But I think that if you watch his stuff and listen to his stuff, he gives you a really good basic understanding of like how to attack debt. And, because for your modern day person or your average everyday person, I think living the way Dave Ramsey asks you to, very difficult, but it will put you in a much better financial position. There's the few percentage people are the people who like go leverage debt and, basically make a bunch of money, where they leverage it and house hack and roll equity out of one house into another and build up into a bunch of rentals, yada, yada, yada. Like that does happen. And those people leverage debt, and obviously that's a very risky thing. So that's where I think Dave Ramsey's teaching is very good for the majority of your average American. So those are my two recommendations. Listen to the Dave Ramsey podcast and Get a Financial Life by that Beth. So, okay. Questions. Let's crank them out. John asked, does a TD make any money on an average C tier? So most tournament directors, TDs, make money on the AM side, because a lot of times where your markups come in are the players pack, you can mark up a little bit, and payout on the AM side you can mark up a little bit. So you're not making crazy money. But if you run, because the other thing is in the modern day tournament directing, like a lot of times it's hard to even have a full field, but it's not unusual at just an average C tier to make $400-$500. I think that's very doable. If you're running a big C tier, you can easily make a few grand. But a lot of that also depends, like if you're able to pay out yourself and so on and so forth. So, yeah. Let me see Instagram. My farthest flying disc is around 370 feet. What's the next disc up you would recommend? It's a great question. I think, Zeus could actually be good for that slot, because there's a lot of Zeuses that I think could really be. Farthest flying disc is a Rhythm. Okay, so a Rhythm's like a flipping 9-speed. Yeah, I'd go up to like a 12-speed. I think that a Zeus could be really good for that slot. I think that a Wraith could be good, because if you're throwing 370, when you're pushing 400, you should be able to get some good turn out of a Wraith. But yeah, I think a Zeus, Wraith, Trespass could be great. One of those. Got to get back to current on Instagram. I'm way out of there. Oh, Trad Radats. I don't even know if I said that right. Said, good throw, bad shot is such an amazing shirt. Just saw it yesterday. I love it. Yeah, I will say, if you haven't seen some of our recent merch, foundationdiscs.com, and check out our apparel collection, we got some absolute fire ones right now. For sure. Rhythm's a 7-speed. Okay, so yeah, I would definitely recommend it. If you're throwing a 7-speed 370, then you got enough speed on you to go up to an 11 or 12 speed. So I would check out like a Wraith, a Zeus, Trespass. I think all of those will be good. You could also check out a Vanilla from Clash Discs. That'll be like a flippy 11 speed. You're definitely ready if you're throwing a Rhythm 370 for sure. Baskets have a target height, cage to band of around 20 inches. For the Pro Tour, would you recommend shortening that instead of making baskets thinner? Make it 12 inches to putt, put a premium on height. I think the baskets need to be smaller in general. I think it's important to note that if you look up when baskets were first created, like the first baskets ever was, I believe it was 1977. I believe is when it got patented, if I'm not mistaken. And if you look at the disc that we were playing with in 1977, they were frisbees essentially. Like they were pretty big diameter, and they were fastback or your typical more rounded frisbee. I forget what the normal rounded frisbee's called, but they were bigger, right? And so since that time, the discs in average have gotten smaller and thinner and more beveled edges and made to be thrown faster, farther, yada, yada, yada. And yet the baskets have gotten bigger. So if you look at the modern first basket, the closest thing we have a comp to nowadays is honestly probably like a Mach 3. And those baskets look tiny, the Mach 3s do. And I think the Mach 3s are probably bigger than the original basket. Could be wrong on that. But if you look at that compared to the modern day basket, the modern day basket's way bigger, even though we're playing with more accurate and smaller equipment. So that makes no sense to me. If anything, the basket should have got more modern and smaller as discs did, but instead the basket got bigger. So I think the basket just needs to become smaller in general. I think it, this way and this way. The game developed where it should be, but I don't think that'll ever happen. I wish it would, but I don't think it ever will. Ooh, through Buddha said, what do you think are Brody's chances of qualifying for USDGC? I think he has a good shot at it. I think it's going to be pretty tough to do it in tournament play because there's just so many good players. But I think Monday qualifying, he could have a good shot. When Brody gets focused on a goal, he gets locked in. So if he's bought in to qualifying for USDGC, if he's bought in to qualify for USDGC, I think he's gonna be able to. So, yeah. Ooh, Tommy Barnett said, "Can we expect to see a new London video soon?" Yes, I think next week we'll have an early preview. We're actually going out with the Parks and Rec department today to film said early preview. So super excited for that. We're gonna check the course out. And like I said, I think our early video preview will come out maybe next week, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so the course itself opens in like 11 days. I think the 31st. Is that the right date? Yeah, I think that weekend, the weekend after Memorial Day, the 31st weekend. I think that's when New London reopens. So exciting stuff. Tyler Engel said, did I see the latest from Bobby Cool Daddy Slick Breeze? He commented that he has seen the foundation stuff and really likes it. My two disc golf worlds collide. No, I didn't see the most recent thing. I've talked to Bobby Brown, Cool Daddy Slick Breeze, if you will, a few times. I'm really excited for him to be back with Dynamic. I think that, bringing Disc Golf Answer Man back is a great idea. And I think that I'm excited to see if he can get Dynamic Discs back to the brand image it once was. If there's anyone that could do it, I think it's him, because I think he has a good understanding of what that vision originally was. him and EMAC together. I think that they can, if anyone's able to, I mean, other than Jeremy Rusko coming back and being heavily involved, they're the next two best things, I think. So, and him being in charge of kind of the brand image, I think that's I think that's it. I think it's a really good move from Dynamic. We'll see what comes of it. So, how do you feel about brands sponsoring slots and bags like Brody brings up, Discraft fairways, Innova drivers, etc.? What just happened? Okay, sorry, just got a notification from something that was confusing me, but I just misread it. I've never really been a fan of that. I don't think it really makes sense. Mainly because it would make sense in the sense of like EV7, right? They're a putter only company. I don't even know if they exist anymore, to be quite frank with you. But when they came out, they were a putter only company. And so they sponsored a few players putter only slots. But the problem is, like, every company has putters, right? So if I'm Discraft, why would I want any player throwing something other than, like, we don't have many companies that are like, mid-range is our specialty, so we're going to zero in and just sponsor people from mid-ranges. I don't think that just doesn't make sense to me, because like the getting a bunch of people on board for that, it's going to be easier, I feel like, just to get one person on board for all of it. So I understand the open bag, and you can get like signature discs with some niche brands, like how Eric Oakley had his signature spice. A lot of people do things with Thought Space, but when you're talking Discraft, Innova, Prodigy, House of Discs, like those companies, minus Castaplast, but most of those companies, they want all or nothing commitment. It's the niche ones, I think, can get in the weeds a little bit more with that, because they might not be able to afford to fully sponsor someone, but they can afford to sponsor their putters. So I think it works in certain extents, but for the most part, no. All right, we're going to go with like one or two more questions. Okay, we'll go two more. We'll go one from Instagram and one from YouTube. Some Instagram, ZRedding22 said, will y'all be involved in the Disc Golf Pro Tour Amateur Championships? So I believe what he's talking about is the amateur event happening alongside the Tour Championship, which, yes, we will be involved. I don't know exactly how involved. We'll be vending there. I think we might even be running one of the courses in some capacity, but we're also going to be helping them with marketing. The registration actually goes up today. It goes up today. Tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, I believe. So if you register for MA1 or MA2, you actually get to play the New London, and you get to play Ivy Hill. So you'll play and it's the same weekend the Pro Tour Championships happening. So you're gonna be playing Pro Tour courses the weekend of a Pro Tour. Like you don't get to do that pretty much anywhere. And then the other divisions, you're still gonna be playing a lot of local courses. So, and not to mention, you'll get to watch the Pro Tour Championship go down. You get to play in Lynchburg. So if you're a Foundation fan, which if you're watching this, you are, then you're going to recognize the courses you're playing, even if it's not Ivy Hill or the New London, because you're going to be playing courses that we play in our videos all the time. So not to mention, like I said, when you're not playing, you can go watch your favorite players playing. It's a no-brainer for me. It also has a pretty sick players pack, so you can find all of that out over on Disc Golf Scene. Like I said, I think registration goes live tonight, so we're working alongside them. We're going to help promote the event, and we're going to help run it in whatever capacity we can. We're also going to be there vending, so we're going to have a bunch of cool releases and stuff going on. So, excuse me. So yeah, definitely check that out if you're interested. If you're in the area, you definitely should be playing. If you're not in the area, you should definitely plan to come down to check it out. So. Let's see. Christian H. Buck. Final question. What am I looking most forward to in Europe? I think I'm most looking forward to watching Worlds in Europe. Because I think that's just going to be the first time it's ever happened over there. It's already a packed venue, typically. I think it's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen in the sport before. I'm excited to watch both European majors. I'm just bummed they're back-to-back. I get why it had to happen that way, but it just sucks because I don't think majors should be that close together in time-wise. Because, I mean, basically if someone gets hot, they could win both European events because they're back-to-back events, and then they won half the majors in a year. It's just I don't like that from that standpoint. But I think both events as standalone events are going to be incredible. I think they're going to be two of the best run majors of all time, and I think that Worlds is going to be probably the biggest attended disc golf event of all time. So super, super excited for that. I definitely think Worlds is what I'm looking forward to the most. Oh, this is sick. Bosco Disc Golf said, y'all inspired me and changed my life. I'm 47 years old, started playing last June. I was a type 2 diabetic, and since playing, I've lost 35 pounds, and I'm off my diabetic medicine. That is sick. Congratulations, Bosco. We didn't do anything. You did that yourself. So I appreciate you trying to give us credit, but you're the one that got out there, got active, and did it. So congratulations. Keep it going. 35 pounds down. You got to keep chucking away. You know, this is awesome. You got a bunch of momentum. Keep the momentum going. Congratulations, though. That's incredible. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Hopefully you have a fantastic rest of your week. Instagram, sorry I started late. Or YouTube. Instagram, you got a little sneak peek. But YouTube, sorry I started late. Won't let it happen again. My bad. Talk to y'all next week.